the town. At first glance, it seems like a calm, peaceful place, doesn't it? A classic American town where people greet each other with smiles. The scent of freshly baked cookies wafts from windows, and time feels like it's standing still. But everything has a mask, and I'd say I'm a master of masks. This town? I'm the one who broke it. I constantly cheat on my husband with 5 different young men. I'm Sasha. I'm 29 years old, married to Mason. Now, you're probably asking, why would a woman talk about her husband like that? Mason is a good man, a great person, maybe too good, but I was never someone who belonged to a man like him. I knew from the start that the person he adored in his eyes wasn't really me. This marriage was just an escape for me, a way to break free from the suffocating life I once had, from the restrictions, from the overbearing pressure of my family. But while escaping, I realized every escape creates a new cage. So, I decided to forge the keys to that cage. Freedom sometimes requires taking risks, doesn't it? Every morning, Mason wakes me up for breakfast. His smile is brighter than the morning sun. So naive, so pure. But I'm in love with the darkness behind that brightness. In Mason's world, everything is so orderly and predictable that I can't silence the storm within me. That's why the blind spots behind the smiling faces of this town became my playground. With each of them, I experienced moments of intense thrill. At first, it felt like a small adventure, capturing someone's attention, flirting, creating tension with stolen glances. It gave me a thrill, like nothing else. The handsome mechanic Kyle, the rebellious son of the farm owner Nick, the charismatic barista at the local cafe Ethan, the quiet but captivating Caleb from the bookstore, and of course, Luke, the captain of the football team. Each one offered a different taste, a different adventure. But it's not about choosing one. This is a game, an art, daring yet unhinged. The first person I had an affair with in this town was Kyle, the handsome mechanic. My adventures with Kyle were like playing with fire. In his garage, amidst the smell of motor oil and metal, there was an electrifying tension. One day, when Mason was away on a business trip, I had the perfect opportunity to flirt openly with Kyle. He invited me to the garage. I got ready at home, putting on my favorite perfume, my most seductive lingerie, and my fiery red dress. I knew wearing that red dress would attract the entire town's attention. When Kyle saw me, he was like a wolf eyeing his prey. I felt the spark ignite within me as his gaze devoured me with hunger. We started with a couple of beers. Just being in the garage wearing that dress felt like madness, and suddenly, everything escalated. All the walls between us disappeared. My dress was no longer on me, but among the greasy tools and machinery. Out of breath, our scents mingled with the smells of the garage. We reached the peak of all pleasures. Afterward, we laughed together, disheveled, sharing another beer, when we heard a noise outside the garage. "Did something fall?" Kyle asked, but I saw a pair of shoes through the gap under the door. Perhaps it was Mason. At that moment, my heart was pounding out of my chest, but it wasn't fear. It was an indescribable thrill. And no, I didn't regret it. I wasn't going to stop. With Ethan, it was an entirely different world. Beyond his barista skills, he always seemed to know the right words to say to me. Ethan was a smooth talker, and I was deeply drawn to him. One night, after the cafe closed, he called me to the back room. That night, under the dim lights of the cafe, our excitement mingled with the aroma of coffee, creating a tension you could almost touch. I hadn't even dressed up, but Ethan loved my natural self. He started by gently holding my hair, but soon that gentle man disappeared, and he began pulling it with fervor. Everything was incredible until I saw Mason's truck pull up in front of the cafe. My breath caught. But I expertly turned all that adrenaline and everything we'd just done into a calm and composed lie. Ethan was showing me a new coffee recipe, I said. Mason's eager-to-believe eyes were my victory. Nick. Everything with Nick was even more chaotic. One night at the farm, under the stars, I felt not peace, but the raw energy of a volcano about to erupt. The farm was close to our home, and the thrill of being with Nick there was intoxicating. Under the stars, we felt like characters from a movie, the freest people on earth. Once, amidst our shared heat, we learned Mason had arrived at the farm. We held our breath, hiding in the dark corners of the barn, but Nick's carefree smile was putting everything at risk. "Maybe he's here to check on the animals," I told Mason, though his eyes were filled with suspicion. "Still," he relented, "this is Mason's weakness. He always wants to believe me. Perhaps you're all judging me right now. What kind of woman are you, Sasha? You might ask. I never claimed I was doing the right thing. I'm a woman chasing pleasure, passion, and emotions, and I'll always be this way. Mason doesn't matter to me. That's his choice. The night with Luke was an unforgettable disaster. Maybe it was the closest Mason ever came to not believing me. We were celebrating the football team's victory, and I met Luke at the back of the bar. Alcohol, adrenaline, and shadows. It was a perfect party. Luke and I slipped away to a quiet spot behind the bar. On the field, Luke didn't leave any ground untouched, and he applied the same philosophy to me. Every place he touched made me feel like I was soaring. Everything was going perfectly until Mason suddenly appeared at the back door. Luke froze, but I didn't hesitate. I quickly gathered myself and told Mason I just needed some fresh air, and Luke didn't want me to be alone. The fragility in his eyes stirred a strange satisfaction within me. Mason seemed ready to argue, but I cut him off, shouting, "How dare you not trust me? If you don't trust me, leave. I'm Sasha. I don't need anyone. But you, Mason, you need me." Caleb, however, was perhaps the only one where emotion, not just passion, came into play. Caleb was different. Our innocent conversations in the bookstore gradually turned into a dangerous dance. Among the bookshelves, in those moments when our eyes met, the tension reached a fever pitch. He listened to me, talked about other subjects deeply. If I were to choose to fall in love, it would definitely be Caleb. One day, Caleb and I grew close in the archive room. Perhaps those old books experienced the most exciting moment of their existence. Disheveled, I left the archive room, while Caleb followed, zipping up behind me, just as Mason appeared in the bookstore. The electricity between Caleb and me was almost tangible. Mason acted as if he didn't notice, but I sensed something break in his eyes. Does Mason still love me? Probably. But does he trust me? I doubt it. He might have realized this is a game, but we keep playing. For me, it's a victory. For him, a tragedy. And let me tell you this, I have no regrets. Living without risks and passion is merely breathing, not truly living. Maybe one day Mason will figure it all out, or maybe he never will. Until then, the game goes on. And by the way, none of the 5 men, Kyle, Ethan, Nick, Luke, and Caleb, know about each other. I'm not playing this game against Mason. I'm playing it against everyone who has ever tried to cage me. I'll keep living and experiencing whatever I want with whoever I want. I'm Sasha, a woman of passion,